What's up, fam? It's the Macism with another, even more late night Let's Play compared to last night. Last night I started around almost midnight. This one, it is going on 1:30 in the AM. Why? Because I treat my YouTube channel as being therapeutic. If I feel I need to get things off my chest, I'll do a live stream, you know, play some games, relax, de-stress. But tonight's, I guess, rant or something I want to address. You know me, I'm just a beacon for just unwanted drama. And half of that just comes from commenting common sense on YouTube comments or any type of comments on any type of social media. So the last couple of days I got into a disagreement, I might add, with this one YouTuber. I like his channel, I like his content, so it's nothing personal against the guy. But I think one of my comments concerning his video retrospective on Raw 2, which was a wrestling game on the original Xbox that came out in the early 2000s. I guess before I get into the meat and potatoes of this rant, and the reason why I think things got kind of went sideways in the comments to the point where he just came off triggered. I didn't expect this guy to come off this way, because in his video retrospectives and reviews, he comes off as a nice, engaging, you know, affable kind of guy, you know. Like I said, I've been following his channel for 3 years, and I was a subscriber. I decided to unsubscribe because he was just acting like a straight up triggered dude bro in the comments. What I mean by dude bros is you'll have basically the more social, kind of slight alpha male kids in the neighborhood who hang out with each other, they're buddies, they do everything together, they play outside, they video game together, you know, they go after chicks and stuff, you know, that regular boys do, you know, regular boys do, who are not geeks or nerds who are stuck in the house all day. And so dude bro gamers, they usually game, you know, they do most of their gamers socially with friends. You know, they have their friends over. Most normal kids of my generation did. I'm not really a dude bro. I wasn't raised in a dude bro environment. I was raised in the straight up hood, but I was raised around a church going family. My grandfather was a minister, so I didn't engage in too much crazy shit when I was living in that hood life. But to keep the topic on wrestling, Raw 2, I do own the game. Well, I had the physical copy, but I sold it like a few months ago. But I do have, on my modified Xbox, I have the game on my modified Xbox, the whole game complete. Just download it on the hard drive on my modified Xbox, so I can go back and play it. It actually plays better off the hard drive than it did kind of on disc. You know, faster loading times and stuff like that. And so he did this whole retrospective. He tried to be objective about it, but he was the first reviewer who ever said the game straight up sucks. What's up, Sleep Tight? So this guy, he said, is like, I'm not gonna defend the jankiness of the gameplay. The in-ring gameplay by modern wrestling standards is not very good. It's pretty bad. It's janky. If you compare it to any of the best games of that era, the early 2000s, of Day of Reckoning, even Here Comes the Pain, Shut Your Mouth, No Mercy, Raw 2, actually all the original Xbox wrestling games, gameplay wise, were janky and kinda ass. So I was not disagreeing with that man in terms of his criticism of the gameplay. He even took it one step deeper by, I guess, they had really good commercials and trailers of Raw 2 showing gameplay features and wrestlers that never appeared in the game. So I can see how he can be disappointed as a wrestling game fan. You know, you're getting hyped seeing all these commercials, and everybody know the original Xbox was a more powerful console than the PS2. And so as a wrestling game player, you know, he was getting kind of hyped. He gets the game, he finds out the gameplay is janky, and his preferences is more towards the gameplay. So I totally understand. That was not my argument with him. My only disagreement with this guy was the fact that because the gameplay was ass, he didn't see no redeeming qualities in the game itself. But Raw 2, since I put a lot of time in actually playing the game, actually putting in over 30 or 30 hours playing the game. Granted, 30 hours me playing a wrestling game isn't a lot, because I had this game since launch, and I think I put in over 100-something hours playing this game, because this game is fun. The graphics are pretty. I can make hot chick wrestlers. I can spend hours playing this game and not get bored. Raw 2, the gameplay is janky, but one thing that it has that revolutionized wrestling game was its creation options. Granted, Here Comes the Pain and games that time, they had created a wrestler and other shit you could do, but Raw 2 took it one step further. You had crazy amount of clothing options. You still had all the kind of moves in other games of the time. Not only that, you can put your music on your original Xbox off your CD and play your music, whatever music you had on your hard drive, in the entrances. You can even make your little Titantron videos. You can set pyro. That was shit you could not do in No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain and other wrestling games at the time. You could not do that in those games. There was a lot of clothing options. You can mix and match clothing. They had it to where when you put on clothing parts, you had to put on your clothing parts by limb. It's like you had to put your elbow pad on each arm individually and stuff like that. It was like, no, you can put all your clothing parts on one side of the body and just copy it to the other side. So it cut the time of actually putting attires, doing the whole creation of your wrestler process in half by having that option. Not only that, it had a very good story mode. It was corny, it was cheesy, it didn't have no voices or anything. But the cool thing about it was it was all dependent on you, what you did in that story mode. You had to trigger your rivalries to get booked in matches. You had to attack other wrestlers to set up your rivalries. That was the only way you were going to get rivalries in that game. But once you figured out how to do that, how to set traps, piss off other wrestlers to where they would interrupt your matches. I remember I pissed off the whole NWO in that game. Well, this Hulk Hogan faction. it was Hulk Hogan and these other dudes. They weren't the NWO. And I pissed them all off. So any match that I had, they would always bum rush the rings in all my matches and interfere in all my matches. They cost me some matches. I lost matches because, like I said, the gameplay, the in-ring gameplay is very janky. There was like no disqualification. The other wrestlers would come in the ring and beat your ass. And every match was like a no DQ match, so you would use the match because you would get your ass kicked by people invading your match, and then the wrestler who you're wrestling would kick your ass, and there was no way you could win that match. And that would piss me off, but it's like I don't play a lot of gimmick matches, and I know a lot of people said the gimmick matches, like the steel cage, the ladder, the table, all that was kind of ass. But the table matches in Raw 2 were crazy because you could put a limited amount of tables in the ring and the game wouldn't crash. You would have tables upon tables in the ring. You could do some truly busted shit in the game. Another innovation they had was match replays. Like if you do a finisher or a special signature move, it would do like a little, like how they did in the old school WWE, where they do like a little three-peat of a finisher move, like a camera, you know, replay highlight thing. They would do that. They would do that in the matches. People complained about the referees counting slow. It depends. You could pick like 4 or 5 different referees, but I only picked Earl Hebner because he count the fastest. Other referees, they counted slow. Every referee was different. And so, like I said, the game had a lot of charm. Yes, it's janky as fuck. The gameplay, if you want to say it's bad, I'm not going to argue against you. It's like, but I played worse wrestling games. But I'm not going to argue against you if you say the gameplay is bad. But as far as a game on the original Xbox and how it holds up today, it does some things better than modern wrestling games. Modern wrestling games, you can't use custom soundtracks no more. You can't put your own music. You know, unless you get an external hard drive like I am on the PS4. But you're not going to hear the music when I'm live streaming it unless you hear it from my TV playing through my mic. That's the only way you're going to hear it. Before that, you know, it came through, you know, whatever on the console, but not anymore. So, my only issue was him. He just came off hella biased. Granted, it's his retrospective, so it's his opinion. And I even told him in the comments that I wasn't going to hold it against him for him having that opinion. It's like, you know, it's your retrospective. You can think whatever and feel however you want. I said, but if you're trying to make your video objective, then you don't want, and if you do have a bias, you need to own up to it. You need to own up to the fact you didn't play the game a lot. You were turned off by the gameplay. You know, you need to be honest with your viewer. It's like, you're kind of low-key trying to convince like your followers and subscribers that the game was just a total ass because you didn't like it. But then when you read his comments on his YouTube video, a lot of people who grew up as teenagers or kids playing Raw 2 on the original Xbox, they loved it. They had fun with the game. If you look at the overall review scores of Raw 2, it got like 6s out of 10s. So people acknowledged the game was flawed. It was a flawed experience, but there was some fun to be had. Like I said, you can have fun with bad games. And Raw 2 was one of those games that had, you could create so much shit in that game with the creator wrestler that it made the game fun. Because like I said, when you're a kid, you use your imagination. You use your imagination to make even the most horrible games your parents bought you as a kid, or stuff you borrowed from friends, you made it fun. And that's what Raw 2 is. Now granted, Raw 2 gameplay wise isn't as good as Here Comes the Pain. And I think what hit the nerve with the guys when I said I prefer Raw 2 over No Mercy, which was a Nintendo 64 wrestling game that's considered one of the best wrestling games of all time. It's like a natural consensus in the wrestling video game community that No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain are like the pinnacle of wrestling games of all time. It's like they alternate between being 1 and 2 of the top games of all time, wrestling games of all time. And so when I say a janky hot mess gameplay wise, I prefer that over No Mercy. That would get me lots of hate. So him coming at me, you know, you immediately totally don't respect the person for taking that kind of take. It wasn't a hot take, me to just be a troll. No, that was me being honest. And I even explained to him why that I would prefer Raw 2 over Here Comes the Pain. I wrote a detailed post about it. I said, for one, when I got into wrestling games, I didn't start really playing them until my early 30s. So I don't have no childhood nostalgia, no childhood bias, because I never played the late 90s and the early 2000s wrestling games. I did not play them. I think the only one I bought was oh my god, it was considered one of the best wrestling games on the PS1 at the time. It had Stone Cold Steve, I think, yeah, WWF Warzone. And the only reason I bought that game is when I found out you can create female wrestlers. So that ought to tell you something about my preferences of wrestling games. When it comes to wrestling games, it comes down to creation options, graphics, presentation, and can I create hot female wrestlers? I am brutally honest with my preferences. It's like gameplay matters. But if a game fills the rest of that checklist, I can tolerate janky gameplay. Why? Because I am an old head. I grew up during the Atari era. I grew up when we had bleeps and dots for video games. The first wrestling game I ever played, probably before this dude was even born, was Pro Wrestling on the NES. It was an 8-bit game, and me and my cousin, we played the shit out of that game. My favorite character was Starman. He was just this purple-looking blob of a man with like a star on his face. But that game was the shit. And then my cousin, he got the WrestleMania game. That game was total ass. That was like the worst wrestling game. Wrestling has always been a part of my life to some extent, even though I wasn't a fan of it. Growing up in the hood, like some of my childhood friends had WrestleMania parties. I would be at their house playing video games while their families were having a barbecue, watching Hulk Hogan wrestle the Ultimate Warrior. I remember this shit. I remember when Zeus wrestled Hulk Hogan. I remember all that shit. It's like I caught glimpses of it. You know, you hear about it. It's like the WWE, well, the WWF back then was a part of pop culture during the 80s. It's like we had ice cream, Hulk Hogan ice cream bars. We had a WWF cartoon show. You had the whole MTV rockin' wrestling era where you had musicians and wrestlers and stuff doing collabs. So it's like wrestling has always been a part of an 80 kid's life to some extent. And I think that translated to the 90s with the Attitude Era with some kids. So, you know, you have my era, then you have that era, but I wasn't like, I didn't watch wrestling on TV. The only time I watched it, like I said, caught a glimpse of it, was at a friend's house when they had WrestleMania parties. But outside of that, I didn't really get into wrestling games till like around 2008. SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. Sleep Tight, he can verify when I went to his house when him and his friends, when they were kids, they were playing SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, 2007, and would beat my ass in that game. And it was like, but I really didn't catch the wrestling game bug until SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. Once I saw the graphics and the presentation and how realistic the wrestlers look, and then not only that, I can make really hot female wrestlers with humongous anime titties. I was sold. I got addicted. I was buying the SmackDown vs. Raw games every year after that, even to this day. I even started buying other wrestling games. Yep, see, even Sleep Tight can verify. Yep, 2006. He remembers. We were talking about this a few days ago. And it was like I saw how good the wrestlers look, how realistic, how fun the gameplay was, and I just been addicted ever since. It's like I went to one of my old W2K22 videos when I was like hella mad with the game crashing, and I said I would never buy another 2K game new. Well, technically I didn't buy 2K23 with money. I used credit to get this game, so technically I didn't buy it. You can't get me on that. I didn't buy this game. I used credit and got it brand new. I didn't come out of pocket buying this game. This game didn't cost me no money. So I even traded in 2K22. I don't have a hard copy of the game. It's like a person, one of my subscribers, they hooked me up with the online code to get the game. Well, actually, no, they hooked me with some money, and then I bought the game. They were like, nah, man, we need you back playing the game. Don't quit on us, bro. It's like, here, we'll hook you with a digital copy. So it was on sale. So I got it. Got it again. It's like, I'll play it once in a blue moon. It's like the game, it's like once you start playing this game, you can't go back to 2K22. You just can't. You can't. It's just not as good. Not as good as this game. And so I basically gave the guy a breakdown of my wrestling game history, you know, what my preferences are, and I told him is like, because he said his whole point of view, he's talking about gameplay is king, and that gives him an excuse to shit on other games. You know, he did say some positives about Raw 2, but I can tell he never played the game a lot to really give an objective opinion of the game. He didn't play the game a lot to where he can really say, outside of creation options and using custom soundtrack, that the game has any merit. But I'm like, it's like, look at all these comments. He barely responded to a lot of the positive comments either. Everybody was like, man, I had hella fun in the game. What you talking about? Me and my cousins, you know, all these people sharing their stories about how much fun they had with Raw 2. It's like, yeah, granted, you still had the PS2 fanboy saying, it's like, oh man, it's like, you know, nah, I was like, sorry, you know, that game was ass. Trying to convince the Xbox players, like, oh, you guys just like bad games and all this other shit, you know, talking shit. But it's like, it was just overwhelming in the comments how many people wrote in his comments about how much they had fun playing Raw 2. So he tried to slap the whole gameplay is king kind of attitude with me, you know, that some, you know, gamers did, you know, concerning, you know, what games are considered the best games, wrestling games of all time. So I was like, but I told him when it comes to gameplay, it's subjective. It's very subjective. I said, you can be objective about it. I'm not going to openly state that Raw 2 gameplay is better than Here Comes the Pain. I will say Raw 2 gameplay is debatable whether or not it's better than No Mercy, because I'm going to be straight up honest with No Mercy. I even spoke to Sleep Tight about it. I was like, I played No Mercy, and I said I have a slight bias against this. I owned up to my bias. I said the fact that I can't use any created wrestlers, since I don't have an actual Nintendo 64, I don't have the Rumble Pack, so I cannot save my created wrestler to play it in my modified Xbox, you know, my emulator. I got No Mercy as an emulated game. And so that took out half the fun of playing the game for me. But when I played the actual game, it was like I did not see any appeal whatsoever. Now granted, since I played a lot of the recent games before playing the old games, No Mercy to me, all the characters are blocky. They have the ugliest facial textures. The crowds are kind of meh. The wrestlers move kind of slow. A lot of them have the same moves. The gameplay is weird to me, because like I said, I play a lot of SmackDown versus Raw. It had a whole different wrestling engine. It's very grapple heavy and stuff like that. So it was not my type of wrestling game. It wasn't that it's a bad game. I will never say the game sucks. I can see why people likes the game. It has an in-depth story mode. It has a lot of wrestling types, options, a pretty good roster of wrestlers. So I am not hating on No Mercy. I can see why people consider it one of the top wrestling games of all time. It's just not what I prefer in a wrestling game. So when it comes to preferences, you are never going to win anybody over when it comes to preferences. That's why I would say I prefer Raw 2. Its creation options, its graphics were definitely better than No Mercy's. All the creation options, its stat tracking, its story mode, its presentation. I will tolerate its janky gameplay because it gives me what I like and want in a wrestling game, as far as creation options, graphics, and presentation. It feels more check marks than it doesn't have, you know, of stuff that I don't want. And so, you know, I pretty much, you know, told all this guy this, gave him a rundown. And so he keeps on trying out, guys, having the last word in the comments is his video, so he can say, you know, whatever he wants. And so I think I got to the point where he answered one of my posts saying that he wasn't trying to convince people, you know, otherwise from, you know, out of their preferences. You know, he even stated in his video, I said, yeah, I know. I said, I know that. I said, but at the same time, I could clearly see you have a bias against this game. It's like there was a degree of snark in his retrospective. He came off kind of snarky with the review. He wasn't come from the same type of passion and reverence that he had for his other reviews of other games, like the games he liked. He came off kind of snarky. He straight up said the game sucks once the video started, so he was already pretty much hating on the game, but he was trying to do his best not to come off as a hater. But it was pretty obvious he did not like Raw 2. He made it painfully obvious. And when you're doing a retrospective or / video or review, then people can't take that review seriously. You have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to, because it's not very objective. His review was very subjective. He only had one childhood story, talk about him and his buddies, how they played the game, and the game was ass, and the glitches. He talked about more about the negatives than any of the positives, and then he didn't play the game long enough to even know all the positives. When I listed all the positives in my first comment, that's when he started, coming into my thing, and commenting on my, my comments, started replying to my comments. It was like he just came off saying it's like he couldn't stand somebody giving a more positive outlook on the game that he just absolutely could not stand. It irked him. Maybe because I was more detailed of stuff of talking about the game that he didn't cover in the review. Like stuff that even people who even said good things about the game, they didn't even mention. But I was missing these features. Like I said, I put time in the game. I played the game. I went through like 2 years of the season mode to try to figure out how to do that. I looked at game FAQs on GameFAQs.com of how to play the game, all the secrets in the game, how to get secret outfits, how to get alternate outfits for wrestlers. Because like I said, the gameplay is so janky that you actually do need to read the game facts on how to play the game to a certain extent. It's like the computer will kick out of everything. You really got to beat the shit out of the computer to really enjoy the game. There are some nuances in that game you need to figure out. It's like the in-ring gameplay. It's like you can only tolerate it for so long before you just turn the game off. But to be honest, I could spend hours in the creation options. It's like I would rather create a whole roster of wrestlers and just watch simulated matches. It's like if you make a very good wrestler, you can get some decent matches out of them to where they're watchable. But playing the game, it's kind of torture. I'm not gonna front. Like I said, I didn't disagree with them concerning his criticisms of the gameplay. I did not disagree with him on that. It was just that I could just see the disdain and bias in his review, and that was my only issue with it. It's like it's almost like he's trying to kind of bury, any Xbox wrestling game. Like I said, Raw 1, that was a shitty game. Raw 2 was a vast improvement over Raw 1. And then they had WrestleMania 21. Graphically, that is a very pretty game. Gameplay wise, it is ass. I would say Raw 2 gameplay is better than WrestleMania 21. But WrestleMania 21 on the original Xbox is one of the prettiest wrestling games. But the game is so broken. The game is broken. I think they try to emulate Day of Reckoning. Those are like the wrestling game series I never owned, but I plan to get it since I got a GameCube. The Day of Reckoning 1 and 2 is considered some of the best wrestling games of all time. I have never played them, so I will be searching online to hopefully get those at a decent price. I'll probably pick up Day of Reckoning 2. I might skip 1 and just get 2. But and so I guess I hit a nerve with some of my other comments, because then he was like, once I told him about how he showed a bias and whatever, and he was like, well, that's my opinion and opinions are biases. And you know me, I can come off as a know-it-all kind of asshole. So I replied back, I'm like, well, I said, well, yeah, opinions can have biases. I said, but that's not what an opinion is. I said, an opinion is basically your thoughts and feelings based on experience, knowledge, and facts. I said, because anybody can have an opinion on anything. I said, but an opinion doesn't hold any weight unless you have facts to back it up. You got to have actual facts to back up an opinion. Otherwise, everybody would talk out of their ass and everybody would just believe everybody's bullshit. And it's like, it's like, especially in this days of trolling, you definitely have to call people out on their bullshit. And then there's a lot of people on the internet who lack common sense, and you just need to check them when they just start mouthing off bullshit with no facts. And it's like, yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but you better have some facts to back it up. Otherwise, you're just talking shit and looking stupid. And so he said that I don't know what I'm talking about. And that he was done with me, with the argument. So I was like, dude, I do know what I'm talking about. I said, you need to put up or shut up when it comes to opinions. I said, especially when people question it and call out your bullshit. And so I knew that some of the stuff I posted triggered him. And I just found it funny. It was like, I even told him, I said, look, I'm not trying to ruin your day. I said, I'm a subscriber. I'm not trying to, troll you. I said, your retrospective is what it is. I do have some disagreements with some of the things you said. I said, but outside of that, I really have no issue with everything you had to say. I said, I just don't agree with all of it. And that should be perfectly fine. And so, but people like this guy, you bump into these people who feel like people, when you read his comments, he has a lot of ass kissers. He has over 100,000 subscribers now. He even has a Patreon. He's pitching his Patreon. He's pitching merch. So yeah, he's making money off of his content now. So you start to get an ego, you start to get a big head. You start to feel yourself a little. And then I'm sure he probably gets some haters, and he figures I'm one of his haters. I didn't say anything personal or anything hateful or spiteful or negative about him personally in any of my comments. I just disagree with one of the things he said concerning the game. That was it. And so, but that triggered him in some way to where he would have just replied to my comments. And so, but yeah, it's like you run into these dude bros. You run into these dude bros, which I consider the dude bro areas. Like, we had dude bros even with my generation, but the dude bros now are like even worse, because it's like the dude bros now, they're more like whiny bitches. It's like dude bros back then, it's like the people like me who correct them or whatever, they'll just be like, okay, whatever, bro, and then they'll just ignore me and go on about their way. But the dude bros these days, they want to get in your face. They want to try to argue with you, but they really can't. They get triggered and butthurt easily. Like, dude bros back then, they'll be like, okay, bro, and they'll just go on about their business and just ignore you. They just don't want to get into it. They don't got time for drama. But the dude bros now on the internet, they try to attack you with snark, and they try to troll you. They try to get under your skin by trying to troll you. But it don't work. It don't work with me, because I know exactly when people start trolling. And I knew when he started trolling, and I'm like, okay, you want to play this game? Like, okay, well, you're just going to dig yourself into a hole. And it's like, only one or two things are going to happen. He's going to keep posting to get the last word, or he's just going to block and delete my comments. That's how it's going to either end. there's no other option. That's the only way it's gonna end. Either that, or he's just gonna stop responding, or I'm gonna stop responding. That's it. That's the third way it's gonna end. That's these. But I even try to end the whole thing peacefully. I'm trying to extend olive branches. Like I said, I have nothing personally against them. I'm not out to get the guy. I'm trying to like, man, I like your content. I don't know why you getting so pissy with me. What did I do? It's like you just coming after me like I stole something. It's like, what happened? What did I do? Did I destroy just your street cred? What? Did I just, it's like, it's like, the only reason why I think this dude would be pissy is that, like I said, he got an ego, and he feels what he says is basically his truth, and it's all facts. Anybody who disagrees is either a troll or a hater. He's probably one of those dudes, like I said. He's probably one of those guys. You know, he comes off very snarky and whatever. He just comes off kind of like a dude, bro. I watched some of his live streams where he's playing wrestling games with his friends or whatever. And it's like, yeah, he's just one of those kind of chill kind of dude bros. But, you know, once you start getting known and prevalent on social media and YouTube, you know, you do start to get like you got some clout. Like you start to feel yourself a little bit, you know, and you just start to, I guess, you stop being humble, you know, you stop being humble and less appreciative of the audience you have. But, you know, you get to that point where you have 100 and something thousand subscribers, and probably out of that 100,000 subscribers, you're only going to have like maybe 1,000 to 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 people who are really fans of your stuff, and then you're just gonna have cash. Hey, she knocked that bitch out by just slamming her head in the mat. And then you're just gonna have people who just visit your content once in a while, and then probably 30% of them people is probably just haters. Or people's gonna disagree with you or whatever. So I understand, because I've been an artist. I got my haters. Out of all the people who follow me, there's probably only 30 people I can say who are cool with me. Out of the hundreds, and depending on, like, even on DeviantArt, you know, I only got maybe like 50 to 60 people who really follow my shit, and I had over 70,000 views on my DeviantArt account. So, you know, you got to play the averages. Like, you don't know, it's like I can understand where you're coming from. You know, you don't know who you're chatting with on the internet, but I think that's why you always got to be kind of humble. It's like, I understand if he thought of me being a troll, but I didn't come off trollish. Like I said, I didn't take any shots at him. He probably got triggered over something I posted. He even spoke to one of my other buddies, where he even told me that it's like, yeah, you get these certain YouTubers, you know, they have these followings, and so they just become dicks. He's like, all these dudes are under the age of like 35. It's like none of them are older than 35. It's like if they're between 25 and 30, he said, yeah, they're gonna be dicks. A good chunk of them are dicks. He's like, if they got over like 50,000, like even some you're gonna have like, even the once they hit 25,000 subscribers, yeah, they start to become dicks. Once they start to get between a $80 to $300 monthly check from YouTube, then they start to become dicks. And it's like, was like my other buddy Sandra. She said, yeah, she can see that. She said she always been a bitch. She said that hasn't changed. She said she never changed when she started making money. She said she's always been the same person. She said, I never changed. She said, I got mods to handle all the assholes and the people who act up, so she doesn't really have to be, you know, she's not going to get her blood pressure up on people trolling and, you know, insulting her. She said she got a block button, she got mods, she got ways of dealing with bullshitters. But my buddy said it's like he got 50,000 subscribers on his YouTube, and then he built up a following on Instagram doing art. And he said, yeah, early on, once he started getting monetization, getting his little checks, you know, filling up his bank account and stuff like that, you know, he started to feel himself. He said he started to feel himself once he reached about like 25,000 subscribers and things like that. And then once he hit about 40,000 subscribers, and then he was able to sell merch, you know, and he was actually paying bills with his YouTube and social media money, to where it's like, yeah, dude, I can pay my rent, I can pay, my phone bill, I can pay my electricity bill, and still have a little money left over to, for food and for hobbies. He said, oh yeah, you doing all right, you doing all right. He said, but in the end, it was still chump change from actually having a career, kind of day job, because then he started doing work for like Marvel Comics, indie comics. So that was an extra, what was he saying? He said with his social media passive income and merchandise, he makes between 25 to 30 grand a year. He said, I'll have bad years and I'll have good years. He said, and then as far as his art job, he's pulling in between 36 to 40 grand a year. So both incomes combined, he's making, he's trying to creep up to six figures. He's not there yet. He's not making six figures. He's not making 100 grand yet. He says he's about 30 to 25,000 from making that consistently. He said that is his life goal. He wants to make at least six figures a year. He's single. No woman, no kids. So if you're making 70 to 80 grand a year with no kids, you living on your own as a bachelor? And he's 36? Yeah, he's kind of old to be single with no kids. But that's his choice. Dude, I'm single with no kids, so I can't say shit. And so he's doing his thing. But yeah, as far as the Dude Bro communities, another rant I want to touch on is like the new AEW game came out. Seen quite a few reviews on the game, and so I realized that the wrestling game community, it's weird. It's kind of split. Because like I said, you're gonna have people, especially with the dude who I started this little disagreement with on his YouTube channel. You're gonna have these guys who were, sort of like with Sleep Type 209, who were born in, around the mid to late 90s. So they grew up on playing the late 90s and early 2000s wrestling games. That was their childhood. And if you know anything about childhood nostalgia with any generation, you don't talk shit about anybody's childhood. Their childhood, what they grew up with and stuff like that. Perfect case, Sleep Tight could attest to this. When I hung out with him last, it was like I hooked up, my little cousin Ezra, his son, with some Transformers. And so when Sleep Tight was growing up, it was all about Beast Wars. For me, when Beast Wars came out, I was going into my late teens, early 20s. So it wasn't my childhood. It wasn't my childhood in terms of Transformers. Yeah, people get their feelings when it comes to their childhoods. And so it wasn't about childhood. I remember I used to really, like, my late 20s to 30s, I used to really talk shit about Beast Wars. Yeah, he's like, Beast Wars. Because it's like, when it came out, 3D animation was ugly and a hot mess. It was like we had Reboot. Do you remember Reboot? That 3D cartoon? You probably was too young to remember it. But that was one of the most notable ones. And it came out, I think, a little bit before, around, or after Beast Wars. I think it came out before. I don't know. It maybe came out after Beast Wars. And so we had that. We had Beast Wars. It was like, since 3D was kind of creeping into the video game landscape, we started getting 3D animation and, 3D models and animation and things like that. And so for me, it's all about aesthetics, graphics and, presentation. To me, the 3D animation back then just looked like ass. It looked horrible. It was ugly. It's like I can tolerate it in video games. Like if you look at the old school Tekken and Dead or Alive CG 3D intros of the 90s, oh my god, they're just hot ass. But it was like I get a nostalgic kick out of them because it was from a video game. They weren't made to look overly impressive. It's like we didn't really get really good FMVs until Final Fantasy 7 came out. And then but then you look at the end game graphics, it was like you just got these little 3D blocks or whatever. They weren't the best looking, you know, PS1 games weren't the best looking. There are some good looking PS1 games, but you're looking at, shoot, I would have to say the golden age of like early 3D graphics. So, but yeah, I think that was my only knock against Beast Wars. Because like I said, for me, Transformers, they had to turn into vehicles I recognized. You know, you had your Porsches, your Corvettes, your jets. You even had Megatron, who turned into a freaking gun. If you pointed at a cop, you would get shot because it looked like an actual gun. That's why they stopped reproducing Megatron after a while, because he looked like a real gun. He even came with like an aiming stock. He came with a silencer. Yeah, when you bought Megatron, it was a full gun set. When you bought Megatron Transformer, it was like, and then when I finally got a Megatron, it was disappointing. As a gun, he looked badass, but when you turned him to a robot, he was just he could barely stand up. He just was a hot mess. So Reboot, okay, so Reboot did come out before Beast Wars, okay. So I guess I was right on that. Yeah, but I remember watching Reboot. I thought that was ugly. It was a hot mess. I just watched it because the writing was good, and plus it was 3D. It was the newest thing at the time, so you had to check it out. And then when Beast Wars came out, it was like it wasn't my Transformers. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was like you had Optimus Prime as a monkey. It was like, okay. It was sort of like G.I. Joe. When G.I. Joe in the 90s, it went to this whole extreme. All the figures had neon colors like pinks and neon greens and oranges and blues. It went more sci-fi. And it was like I stopped collecting G.I. Joe like around like 1989 because it just fell off rails. I stopped collecting Transformers because they started having target masters and head masters, where you took the head off of the Transformer and it turned it to a little robot too. So if you lost that little robot, well, your Transformer didn't have a head. You were fucked. And so yeah, I completely went off topic talking about what they were talking about. But yeah, so yeah, as far as you don't mess with people's childhoods, as far as when it comes to anything, so but you have like a whole generation of wrestling gamers. See me, I guess I'm an old head, even though I wasn't really a wrestling gamer at the time. Like I said, I pro wrestling on the NES, which came out like in 1985, 1986. You know, I'm 10 years before, you know, what a lot of these, you know, millennials grew up as far as like wrestling games. And so I'm playing 8-bit shit, you know, they're getting 3D shit. And granted, there are some wrestling gamers who I met who really started, you know, collecting and playing the arcade stuff, you know, the 16-bit era and things like that. But when you talk to any wrestling gamer, they always refer to Here Comes the Pain, No Mercy, Day of Reckoning. Only the ones who were previous before them will talk about Fire Pro and some of the Japanese wrestling games and stuff like that. But outside of that, like the general consensus of wrestling gamers is like late 90s, early 2000s were the best games. You know, that's the general consensus. And so as I got older and wiser, I stopped talking shit about people's childhoods who weren't mine. I was like, you know what? I can't really form an opinion because it was not my thing during that time. I didn't follow the content. I didn't watch Beast Wars. So I don't know if the actual stories and stuff were good that resonated with people. Like I said, since I didn't follow the content, I can't really have an opinion on it. So I shouldn't hate on it since I didn't watch it. You know, I shouldn't hate on it because I didn't watch it. It's like I can't have a proper opinion if I didn't watch it. And so, but like I said in my early videos, I started collecting wrestling games in my 30s with no childhood bias. So I started playing the older games. I started playing the No Mercies, the Here Comes the Pain. Like I said, the only games I haven't played is the Day of Reckoning games. Even played some of the PS1 games like WWF's, the first SmackDown games. I played some of the Fire Pro games. I got like most of the Fire Pro games on my modified Xbox because they all came out on like the Super Nintendo in Japan, and even on the NES in Japan. I even got the Game Boy wrestling games. So I got a lot of wrestling games on my modified Xbox. Even the Midway arcade games that played like Mortal Kombat but had, you know, wrestling stars in it. In those games you had fighting game special moves and shit. They could do Hadoukens and punches and had finishers and shit. So yeah, I even got all those games. So I have played a lot of wrestling games, but I have played them with no childhood bias. I have no nostalgia, so I don't have no rose-colored lenses. You know, I don't have that perspective. I don't have that things playing late nights to the crack of dawn and elimination chambers and Hell in a Cells like all these people talk about when playing No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain. When I played wrestling games in my 30s, it was more as a solo experience until I started playing online with like SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 to like WWE 2K14. That's when I started playing online. But before that, they were solo experiences. So I was testing and playing the games by myself. So I judged them based on my experiences playing the games. Whether I liked the gameplay, the roster of the wrestlers, how the game played, the graphics, the presentation, the creation suite, the little story modes, the season modes. I played all that by myself. The GM modes. So I could play all the games. I could look at them objectively. I could look at them from perspective of, okay, I played the top games and I could have put in many hours. Some games more than others. I do have some games I like more than others. Like I said, I do have preferences of what I want in a wrestling game. But I can fairly judge, you know, what is good, what is bad, what I like, what I dislike with no real, you know, bias coming from nostalgia. It's all based on me just experiencing the game. You know, I don't have that luxury with playing, you know, just with other people and stuff like that. Because like I said, when I got to these games, I was a grown-ass man. I wasn't a child when I started playing them. So I don't have that childhood sense of wonder, you know, or like, oh my god, this is the best thing since Wonder Bread kind of thing when playing these games, because they weren't like a new frontier for me. You know, I've been a gamer for like, dude, what was my first console? Since I guess was like 10 or 11 years old. So I've been gaming for over 30 years. So yeah, I've been there, done that, seen that, played that. Yeah, nothing really wows me too much. It would take something a lot to really wow me. And if I say something's good, then it's really good. It has to be really good. It's like, even in games of genres I don't even like, that I have played, I can still see if it's good or not, even if it's not something I prefer or like to play. It's like, I don't play a lot of first-person shooters, but I have played some good first-person shooters. Like I played, what was it? I think the only first-person shooter I played that didn't impress me, that pissed off a lot of people. I think I played some Counter-Strike at a friend's house, and it was like, yeah, playing Counter-Strike after playing like Halo 2, and games like that are graphically pretty to me, and then you go into this game where it's like, you got, yeah, it's kind of weird and kind of clunky. But these dudes just love this game, you know, they were just in love with this game. It was like my same impression with, I don't know, people started to question whether I was a contrarian, just a hater, just to hate. They're like, you just hate anything popular that everybody else likes. And I was like, you know what? To get that label off me, let me experience this shit that a lot of people like, okay? So I remember, I just thought the Uncharted games was just basically Tomb Raider with the male lead, which it kind of basically is, with, you know, some Indiana Jones thrown in. And then I started playing Uncharted. It's like, you know what, these are actually really good games. And it's like, yeah, I can see why people like them. Do I prefer to play them? I played them. I think I beat 2. That's the only one I beat, Uncharted 2. And I enjoyed my time with it. I said, do I see myself being a fan of the franchise? No. Is the game bad? No. Is the game worth all the hype and the awards it's gotten? Yes. It's a really well-made, constructed game. I am not a Call of Duty fan, but I remember I went through Call of Duty 1, the first game, and we played co-op. And me and a friend, we went through the game and beat it. I was like, okay, that was fun. I enjoyed it. That was a fun game to play. Now, will I put in thousands of hours playing multiplayer? No. I think I even bought Call of Duty 2. And I think I only put like maybe 30 or 40 hours in the multiplayer. That's still a lot of time for me. But it just wasn't my type of game. It wasn't what I preferred to play. I think I put more time playing Halo 2 multiplayer at the Comic Grapevine. Sleep Tight knows what I'm talking about. At the Comics Grapevine, up the street with other people, we would hook up our Xboxes, get our TVs, for some lawn parties with Halo 2. I had fun playing that. Time Splitters 2, Future Perfect. That was my other first-person shooter. But yeah, when it comes to wrestling games, yeah, good times at the shop. See, he knows what I'm talking about. And so, those were fun experiences. I would say I wasn't really a sports gamer until Tecmo Bowl on the NES. That was like video games got me into sports. Just like video game got me into wrestling. I didn't follow really wrestling, even though I said it's been a part of my life, but I wasn't really following it. But it took a video game to do it. It's like we had sports fans or whatever in the house, but I didn't become a sports fan until Tecmo Bowl. It was Tecmo Bowl for football, and then Baseball Stars for baseball. It was Baseball Stars. What was that other game? Oh, there was like 2 other baseball games that you had to own on the NES. Yep, Time Splitters 2 was fun. I still got it. And hey, there were 2 other baseball games. Oh my god. Okay, RBI baseball, and there was one other. Dang, I forgot the name of it. It was RBI baseball. There was one other, and then you had to own Baseball Stars. Those are the 3 baseball games you had to have. I even had the original NES baseball game, which was pretty fun at the time. Even baseball on the Atari. I'm talking ancient. You're talking about dots and stick figures on your TV screen. Was fun for its time. But yeah, and then hockey. I didn't get into hockey until I started playing the NHL hockey games. What was it? NHL hockey, I think it was 90? 91? But 94 was the one that a lot of people got into and played. I like 94, but I like 95 better because it kept, you can have up to 5 seasons and it kept all your stats. I know 5 seasons is like, oh, that's it? It's like you can go like 50 or 90 years in your franchise mode now in sports games, but no, back then 5 seasons of straight up, and it calculated all your stats. That was a lot on a Super Nintendo cart. that was a lot of stuff. that was an eternity for a kid, especially if you playing all 82 games. It wasn't until later they introduced like rookies and free agents, you know, and stuff like that. You know, these games, dang, I can't believe that fucking T-Boz beat my wrestler. T-Boz from TLC, the old school R&B group. I need to see these highlights. I gotta know what the fuck happened. I'm too busy talking. Wasn't even paying attention to the match. Oh, she hit her with the code breaker. She hit her with fucking CM Punk's finisher and knocked her the fuck out. T-Boz beat my wrestler. Just knocked out IU. Just bam. Just bam. Knocked her the fuck out. Oh Jesus. But long story short, so the AEW game is out, so all the reviews came out. So I'm seeing reviews that are like, okay, there are some people who are objectively reviewing the game saying, okay, it's fun, There's some crazy shit you can do, but as far as production values and options, it is no way going to beat WWE, the WWE 2K games. It's just not going to beat these games. On the other hand, you have some reviewers who, like I said, it's like the wrestling gamer population is kind of split. It's like I see it with the WWE games, where it's like you just have people who are just fans of the WWE product, so they don't care at all about the creation suite options. The only time they care is when they're making wrestlers like WWE wrestlers from the past. They're making old school rings and stuff like that. You can look on community creations like any era of WWF, WWE wrestling, any wrestler you can think of from past games. Like, you can type in Chris Benoit and you'll see like hundreds of Chris Benoit created wrestlers, even though he died and they don't pretty much mention him in the lore of WWE history. It's like, I know this one guy, what's the status? Yeah, sleep tight. If you want to get good created wrestlers and stuff, you should definitely look up this creator called What's the Status. Because, oh, he just put up an Undertaker from 2005. And that was the Undertaker that was probably in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. The game, you know, you and your friend used to beat my ass in. See, look, he got that classic early 2000s Undertaker look to him. They even, what he says, as the ring announcer, can say his name. Survivor Series 2005 attire. He got the tattoo, full beard, fixed glove logo. So all the stuff they didn't have in the base game, you got these modders putting stuff in the games. But like I said, you have true wrestling WWE marks. Yeah, he was OP. He was OP in 2009. Remember, like, when we were playing 2009, we did a challenge where we tried to beat his ass in legendary mode. He would just reverse everything. It was a pain in the ass to beat Undertaker. You had to cheese the game. I still got to cheese the game to beat him, even when I put in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. It's like, granted, I created some busted created wrestlers. What you do is you make a created wrestler and put their weight class to super heavyweight. Yeah, then you can really handle the Undertaker, because a good chunk of your damage is going to come from your weight class, more so than your attributes. That's what I figured out in 2009. Your damage is coming from your weight class. Man, me and you had some, we had some wars in SVR 2009. We were pretty much even. It was like, I don't think I even had, I think our record was even. I don't think we had a dominant winning record against each other. It was like I may win 2 matches and then you'll win 2 matches. It's like, then you'll go on like a 3-match winning streak and then I'll go on a 3-match winning streak. Because it was all based on who we choose to wrestle with. It's like you would pick Triple H and just beat the shit out of me, or Undertaker and beat the shit out of me, and then I'll pick like one of my creative wrestlers and then I'll beat the shit out of you. And it was just like that back then. It was just pick up and play chaos. I think that's why you got a lot of people who loved the late 90s and early 2000s, because they want that pick up and play with their friends or family and beat each other faces in for about 3 to 4 hours. Oh, somebody made Jeff Hardy from like 2002. What the hell? Yeah, somebody made, this is the Jeff Hardy that should have appeared in Here Comes the Pain, but they took him out. They took him out the game because Jeff Hardy had like a contract dispute. Was he in? I think he was in Shut Your Mouth. Yeah, I think he was in Shut Your Mouth, but he wasn't in Here Comes the Pain. So yeah, any era of Jeff Hardy you want, they have it in Community Creations. You can pretty much, dude, I can download the whole roster of SVR 2009 of the wrestlers from that era and their attire in this game if I wanted to. Santana Marella, they got him. If you want to download even like wrestlers who you barely saw on TV, like Super Crazy, you got Layla, you got the divas who couldn't wrestle back then, like Kelly. You can download all that shit from the 2000s. People been uploading stuff. That is one thing that the AEW game will not match. Is the community creations, the stuff you can download. Like you can download modded arenas, some crazy shit. Actually, let me show you something, Car. You gotta see this shit. I gotta see your opinion, bro. I gotta see your opinion on this shit. You need to download this mod because I want to see what it looks like when I come over to your house and on the PS5. Where is it? Did I do 8-man, multi-man? And where is it? No. Where is it? Custom matches. My 6-woman clusterfuck. Actually, I could do the full 8. I don't even need to do that one. I could do 8-man. And then you gotta download this arena. It's called Backstage Assault. And it's basically made the backstage thing playable. Let me turn on knockouts. You gotta have on knockouts. Because if you have it on pin to win, it's gonna take forever. So you go to match options, custom match rules, turn on knockouts. Do I want weapons? Let's see, no DQ, don't have to worry about that. There's no count out because it's backstage. Let me put it on 30 minutes to see how long this match will go. Default health, keep it at high. Probably mix up some weapons. Probably bring a bat. They said, well, the guy who created the mod, he said you don't want to bring tables or anything in it because it could fuck up some shit. So we're not gonna risk it. Bring in there. There we go. So I'm just gonna pick my created wrestlers and just have them go to town on each other. See who's going to be the last woman standing. I need to adjust the camera because the camera, it has camera cuts, but you need to set the camera towards a fixed camera to see everybody wrestling. Otherwise it's going to look like a hot mess. You're not going to see some because some of the wrestlers will be off camera and things like that. But other than that, it's like this game runs hella smooth, and this is on the PS4. You would think the game would crash where you got 8 wrestlers with hella textures on them and other shit, all wrestling like 8-man. I remember that was like the complaints in the old games going back as like 2K15. People are like, man, we were gonna have like, we can't even get 6-man matches to run properly. I think 2K17 on the PS3 could do it, but they couldn't do it on the PS4. They couldn't get 6-man matches to run on the PS4, which was crazy. But now look, now we can do up to 8 men and women in a match, which is ridiculous. I don't know who's gonna win. You got make sure you turn off entrances when you do this match, because they're walking backstage and it's just gonna look like a hot mess, but it might actually crash your game. So yeah, you want to turn off entrances when you do this match too. So yeah, basically only one woman's gonna stand out of all these eight chicks, because it's all knockouts. There is no pins, there is no submissions, anything goes. I wish the AI would actually use the props and stuff in the background. I would like to try this online with people. I think you can play this match online. Oh yeah, Sleep Tight, are you still playing the game? Are you still enjoying the game? I need to come over. I need to come over and actually see what it looked like on your 4K TV. Yeah, but far as the whole rift with the different type of gamers. Like I started to notice with the W2K games, you have, especially before, especially when AEW was getting close to release, you have people complaining, oh, what did you say? Oh, you haven't played last time, but yeah, it looks good. But yeah, people were complaining that, you know, there was some stuff you could do in the older games that you can't do in the modern games. And it's like, I understand. I can see why people would, you know, bitch and whine about it. But like I said, I got older. I'm done bitching and whining about shit. And plus, I still got the older games. It's like, if I want those old gameplay features, I'll just play the older games. Oh, you got to get another controller? Yeah. Yeah, look at this. It's like, yeah, there is some there's some frame rate issues. But other than that, it's like, if I can go back in time and just show video of this footage to people who were playing the wrestling games like 6 or 7 years ago, just seeing this would blow their mind. They'll be like, you got eight people with no slowdown, the game ain't crashing at once? It's like, yeah. Yeah, dude, you can get this mod on the PS5. I think this would look even hella crazy. It'll look like in 60 frames per second on your console, on your PS5. Oh, she just clotheslined the shit out of her. I don't know who's gonna get knocked out first. It's like there's some areas in the backstage where you can like slam people's like heads and hands into the cars and stuff. You can throw them against the ambulance. You can throw people into that spotlight in the background. You see, I don't know if you see that spotlight. Yeah, you can throw people off that thing into the spotlight and electrocute them. So it's not as crazy and zany as Here Comes the Pain, where you can run people over with motorcycles and shit, like the old PS2 game. So it's not that crazy, but for what it is, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's pretty decent. Nobody's knocked out yet. I'm shocked. And then again, all these are kind of like my main event female wrestlers. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while for somebody to get knocked out. I can see somebody get knocked out probably in the next 3 minutes or so. They are going at it though. See, the only issue is the camera, because the camera will pick like 1 or 2 wrestlers to follow, or where the action is most like with the camera cuts, and that's who they will follow. But yeah, they're going at it. Wait, what happened? Who got knocked out? Oh, I should have put it on elimination. Oh, so what's her name got knocked out? I think, let me do, dang, I can't do, fucking, whatchamajigget. They didn't give me no highlight so I could see, the replay. But it looks like, my little demon chick, she got knocked out by the chick with the blue hair. With the blue streak in her hair, with the black hair. She did a roundhouse kick and knocked her out. Well, with the guy with his channel, he left the last word. What did he say? What did he say? What did that dude say? And let me go back. I don't know. I think he had like one kind of last word, kind of snarky comment. He's probably the type that has an ego and he got to have the last word. So yeah, he basically told me to grow up and enjoy your block while you're at it. Okay, what kind of comment is that? Like I said, I don't know if he's from Canada or somewhere. He probably was high or drunk where he replied. But basically he was telling me to grow up. Because like I said, he had like his retrospectives is more from his childhood perspective of playing these wrestling games. You know, it's from his childhood perspective. So from his childhood perspective, after coming from the PS2 and PS1 and then getting an Xbox and you're getting all hyped for Raw 2 and then you get disappointed with the gameplay being hella janky, I can completely understand. I did not disagree with them concerning that. I was like, yeah, if I'm coming from, you know, playing those really good games and go into a game that's gameplay wise is janky as fuck, yeah, I'm gonna be like, yeah, this game is hot ass. So I don't disagree with them concerning that. But I think I hit a nerve when I just list all the positives of games. Like I said, I do not have no childhood bias. I don't. And like I said, I have played Here Comes the Pain and No Mercy before I played Raw 2. So it's like, yeah, there's no comparison gameplay wise. It's like, yeah, Here Comes the Pain, if you play that, it's gonna make Raw 2 look like ass. But in terms of creation suite options, Raw 2 makes all the PS2 games look like ass. In terms of creation suite options, create a wrestler options, and stuff like that, it blows those games away. It's like it set the standard for modern wrestling games. Raw 2, as far as creation, create a wrestler, and you know, stuff like that, options, it set a standard. And it was ahead of its time. It was truly ahead of its time. I said, they even got the backyard wrestling games, and like Backyard Wrestling 2, that plays better than Raw 2 gameplay wise. And the backyard wrestling games are like, I know the first one. The first one is janky as fuck. I know the first backyard wrestling was hot ass. But the second one was fun as fuck. That game was brutal. You had some brutal knockouts at that game. It was fun to play. And the story mode was hilarious. I even say the Rumble Roses, the all-female wrestling games, like on the PS2 and the Xbox 360, that gameplay is better than Raw 2. I'll say the Fire Pro Wrestling games is better than Raw 2. So I'm not going to disagree about the gameplay being jank, but like I said, I hit a nerve with this guy. He told me to grow up. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm older than you. I am older than you, man. What are you talking about? I was like, I'm already grown. I said, I think he just hit 30 like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. It's like, I'm older than you. What you talking about? Grow up. Like I said, yeah, that's how I can tell it's a dude, bro. Oh, what game needed a remake? Are you talking about Rumble Roses or Backyard Wrestling? Oh, I gotta show you the New Day Arena. You gotta check this shit out. You gotta check out the New Day Arena. I don't know if I want to play the entrance though. Yeah, I'm not gonna do the entrance. The first one. What, the first Rumble Roses? On the PS2? I got that game. I would say it's like Rumble Roses is like a really good B movie. You know, you had those B movies that you just watched for the violence and tits and ass and the horrible acting of the actors and cheesy special effects. Oh, that one. Yeah, that was the second one. The 360 one was the second game. The one on the PS2 was the first game. Yeah, it's like PS2 version had charm because it had that cheesy ass story mode. It had some of the most cheesiest Japanese kind of tropes and other shit in it. It had horrible voice acting, but it grew on you because it was like, man, this game is cheesy. Yeah, I played the shit out of the 360 one because it was, you know, you had more match types. You had tag team, you had fatal four ways, you had triple threats, you had street fights, you even had the queen match. So if you won a queen match, the female wrestler who lost, they would have to do an embarrassing or sexy stunt as the loser. Like you can have them bounce on a ball or do like a sexy dance, have them do like what do you call it, oh my god, my mind is so fucked right now, plus it's late. What is that whole thing when you walk under a stick to see how low you can go? I forgot what that is called, where you have this whole stick or a little bar set up and you try to go under it while still standing up by leaning back. I forgot what that shit was called. You could do that. You could square them with water guns. You could have them jump rope so you can see all the titty jiggle physics. They had the craziest entrances in Rumble Roses. Yeah, Rumble Roses was crazy. Okay, hopefully this match won't glitch. Hopefully they'll stay in the ring and don't go outside the ring. Because when they go outside the ring, then it gets ridiculous. You know what? I'm gonna have my rappers. I'm gonna have Ice-T. I don't know if you remember Ice-T. Well, Ice-T is an old ass man now, but back then nobody was colder than Ice-T. It was like, I know Ice Cube came along. Ice Cube came along a little bit later, but no. Before Ice Cube, there was Ice-T. He was the original gangster. He was so gangster, he even started doing like heavy metal rap shit. He appeared in like early hip hop movies like Beat Street and some other shit. You know what? We need to do that one day. We need to do like a podcast where we watch some old hip hop movies, just so I can see your impression of them, like Breaking and Beat Street. Like I'm talking about. We got RZA. I forgot I downloaded RZA. Where's Tupac? Where's my other dudes? Where's my other rappers? Yeah, 50 Cent though. 50 Cent's the one. I'm gonna add manager because I have what's her name and her in a tag team. Well, a mixed tag team. Jin the Body Chin. There she is. Have her walk out with him as a manager. Yeah, we need the gear. But yeah, so we're gonna have Ice-T versus 50 Cent in the Bootios arena. I don't know if you were watching wrestling at this time, like between like when the New Day popped up between like I think 2014 to around like 2018. It was like, I know the WWE, they capitalized on a lot of racial stereotypes, but I remember the New Day came out. They were supposed to be like the heels, and they had this whole choir and gospel kind of gimmick to them. It was weird. And then it got twisted to them like fucking having unicorns and rainbows. They even did make a box of Bootios as cereal, and they would toss it out to kids. It was like Cheerios, but they call it Bootios. Yeah, it was the most weirdest tag team, but they won so many tag team belts. They had the longest reign until the Usos took it over. And Kofi Kingston, he been with WWE since like 2008. Kofi Kingston, I think he won every belt that you could win in the WWE. He's a multiple-time tag team champion, USA champion, Intercontinental champion. He only won the SmackDown like one of the major belts once, but that's because Daniel Bryan, I think, got injured, so he got the title shot. And then once he won the belt, like a good 3 months later, he gets squashed by Brock Lesnar in like 60 seconds. Shoot, Black America hated that. They were like, man, you gonna have this man win the belt, become a champion, and look at this shit. Get squashed by Brock Lesnar in 60 seconds. Oh my god, Ice-T's going with the kicks. And so these versions of the characters, like Ice-T, he's based on his Def Jam model from the Def Jam fighting game back in the early 2000s. Look, you got a unicorn thing, you got a big old box of Bootios in the background, you got pancakes and other shit. Look at this shit. Hey, look at 50 Cent with the body slam.
You don't get paid by the hour, so nothing wrong with trying to wrap things up.
But yeah, as far as preferences, I enjoy this type of gameplay. I'm used to it. I even started playing the earlier wrestling games the past week, like the older games I got. And like I said, it's like my little modest wrestling on disc wrestling game collection is very modest. It's like a lot of the other stuff is on my modified Xbox. But yeah, you get these dude bros. It's like you get these people who just follow the herd of the community. If you're not kissing No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain and Day of Reckoning games ass, then you're not a true wrestling gamer. So I think once I said I prefer playing Raw 2, and when I mentioned I don't have nostalgia for the games because I started collecting late, I also said I make female wrestlers, was probably like him saying, okay, what kind of fuck? Oh, look, look at 50 Cent just like slithered like a snake on the mat because the pancakes were in the way. It's all glitchy. Like I said, I didn't want them to go outside the ring because that's when they get outside the ring, the props Makes it all hella glitchy. It's like I took out before they made this fix. None of these props was in the ring. As a regular ring with the lighting in this arena, it's pretty nice. You got a power bomb him. Oh, you got a power. I thought he was gonna power bomb him on the pancake, but no, he threw him on the apron. Throw him in the ring. Throw him in the ring. I didn't make this shit. Some modder on Community Creations uploaded it, and then I saw it on the YouTube channel, so I decided to download it just to see what it was like. But they didn't fix shit until like the last patch, which was probably like a month. I was like 3 weeks to a month ago. But yeah, some people think I'm an AEW hater. I'm like, I don't hate AEW. I said I will get the game. I'm just not gonna pay $60 for it. It's like the creation suite options are like horrible. It's like it's inexcusable when it comes to modern gaming to have less options in Fire Pro Wrestling World, which is like almost a 2D wrestling game. It had 3D sprites, but it still played like the 2D isometric, you know, 90s wrestling games. But I'm like, when you have a $39.99 wrestling game with more creation options than your title, and you charge us $60 for it, yeah, that's not good. It's like if they charge $49.99 for AEW, yeah, that would be a day one purchase for $49.99. So some people said, nah, man, $39.99. It's like both sides got haters. Like there's some people who are gonna buy the AEW game because they just hate 2K. They do not like the 2K wrestling games. You have niggas who haven't bought a wrestling game in 15 years. You know, they're like, oh, I'm done with these wrestling games. I don't want to buy no SmackDown. It's like, well, dude, okay, what game came out 15 years ago? So the last game they probably bought was like SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. Don't get me wrong, man. If that was like your last wrestling game you played, I cannot blame you for not buying any more wrestling games after that game. It wasn't that game was horrible. It just there were some weird gameplay mechanics that made it not fun. There wasn't as many moves in the game. The PSP version was horrible, hot mess. Some people loved it. Me, I played it. There's some fun to be had with it, like the GM mode and stuff like that. But it was like it wasn't a very flexible, fun game. Oh, see, yeah, because that big ass cereal box in the background. It was like it interrupts the camera, and then look, they get stuck to the apron. It's all glitchy. It's all glitchy. Whoever did this mod, I appreciate the creativity. But as a functional arena, it's pretty much kind of broken. Kind of broken. And that's what a lot of the modern arenas, they're kind of broken. It's like me, I kind of miss the memories of the old games, of the old days, and the vibes of the old days. But like I said, I still got the old games, so I can relive those old days. It's just that with social media and modern gaming, it's like those modern games just kind of suck. Even though I know in AEW they're trying to get some of those old days, kind of old game vibes for it, because it's like, okay, it looks like No Mercy, kind of plays like No Mercy, even though graphically it's like better than No Mercy in some respects, a lot of respects. You know, you get a lot of blood, you can throw people on thumbtacks, you can attack people with skateboards. My only gripes is like, instead of having more creation suite options, they put all these shitty ass mini games. I'm like, nobody pays wrestling games to play mini games. It's like, what the fuck? Who thought of this idea? Who thought of the whole, let's put a bunch of mini games in a wrestling game? You know, it's like, no, yeah, that is just a dumb idea in my opinion. Well, I knew 50 Cent was gonna win it. 50 Cent, this created wrestler, whoever made him, he's kind of busted.
Now's a good
He
time to
beat
look at some
Roman
of the highlights
Reigns
from that last
a couple of
matchup.
times. He was like a 99 in this game. They did a really good job with 50 Cent. They gave him all his tattoos and everything. They did a good job. Poor Ice-T, he got his ass kicked. I don't know, the match went on for a good while though. It lasted longer than I thought.
Here is your winner. You cannot say they didn't give
There we go. Got Jin Chen and 50 Cent in the ring.
I don't know if I'd say the battle scars were worth it, Cole.
I got them as a pair because they're going to be on my Def Jam wrestling promotion. Sexy Libre and Def Jam are like, they have a partnership. They're promotions that collaborate with each other. So like Sexy Libre wrestlers will wrestle on Def Jam. Because Sexy Libre is all female. Def Jam is going to mixture of male and female. But they don't have a lot of female wrestlers. So they were like, okay, we'll have the Sexy Libre ladies wrestle on our show. And Def Jam is going to have nothing but hip-hop stars. Hip-hop stars as the male wrestlers. I got my Snoop Dogg's, my Tupac's, 50 Cent, Ice-T. I figured I'll add some fun to the game. I'll be like, you know what? I have my own shit going on with my female wrestlers. You know, I'm going to add some fun. I don't really play a lot of dude wrestlers, so I said, you know, let me mix it up a bit. Let me have like a wrestling show with some dudes in it. Because, you know, wrestling games are a sausage fest for the most part. There's only like, out of all the wrestling game players and collectors like me and players who only use female wrestlers, we probably only make like 10%, 15 to 20% of the people who buy these games. But I would have to say the people who buy these games for the creation suite, we probably make up like 35 to 40% of the people who buy these games. It's like, I know the WWE wrestling marks, they'll be like, you know, they just care about the wrestlers and beating your ass in the Elimination Chamber and Hell in a Cell matches and all that other shit all day. They treat the game as a spot fest to do cool shit off of ladders. It's like, hey, that's well and good. You know, that's the majority of the players. And they don't really care about creating wrestlers and the other shit. They just want to do cool shit and beat your ass doing it. That's what you're going to get a lot online. You're going to get all the cheap shit. But yeah, I just got to avoid some of these dude bros on YouTube. I can understand their point of view. You know, you're going to get some random people going up on your channel, you know, raining on your little parade. Because like I said, he was just trying to, he really tried to not come off as a hater, but it was obvious he was hating. He was trying to not come off as one, but it was obvious, very obvious he was hating. He tried to do some constructive, you know, he tried to come off as fair, but no, that was the most biased, uninformed, retrospective, wannabe review I ever seen. You know, it's like, I've seen bad reviews where people are like, the game sucks, I give it this grade, that's it. It's like, okay, okay, whatever, that's how you feel. But the ones who bug me are the ones like this, where they try to come off like, oh, I'm trying to be fair and then partial, and at the same time they're being snarky, you know, like, nah man, this game's just ass. But you know, there are some good things about it, but the game is still ass. And you know, and then if you disagree with that, then they're like, you're wrong for liking this game. This game should not be fun because I thought it was ass. I used to think that way too, from my teens up to my early 30s. But as I got older and wiser, it's like, look, you know, people are going to like what they're going to like. And it's like, I look at my game collection of shit, I would have to say half of the games I own, I'm probably the only few people that like that type of shit, you know? Shoot, like I said, Sleep Tight, no, he come to my house, he sees my Senran Kagura games with my underage waifus with the jiggly boobs, and he gets cringed out. He'd be like, man, I don't want to play this shit. He tried to get me to play. I don't want to play that shit. and then I try to get him to play some type of role-playing games. He's like, I don't want to play that shit. What kind of game is this, man? What you trying to show me? Yes, you did. You got hella cringed out. Never forget the look on your face when I say you said, you gave me that look like, you looked at my eyes going like, really, nigga? You want me to play this shit? Like, nah, I don't want to play this shit. You had that look on your face like, really? Really, bro? You go play this? I never seen you so cringed out in my life. I just thought it was hilarious. I'm like, just try it, man. You're like, nah, I don't want to play this. It's like, nah, you do you, man. You play it. I don't want to play that shit. That shit was funny. But yeah, even these games is like, that game has a, it's like if you want to see some really cringy shit, you should go to like the fan groups for Senran Kagura. It's like, I don't even hang out on those fan groups because it gets really cringy. Like, some of these dudes are like, you gotta understand, a lot of these characters, like a lot of the characters in their game are like 16. And here in the United States, there's only like maybe 5 or 6 states where the age of consent is 16 years old. Only 5 or 6 states. The rest of that shit is considered illegal. In Japan, actually their age of consent is probably by law as low as 14. But normally they don't fuck with you until you reach 16 or 18. But it can go as low as 14 years old in Japan. So it's like, it's a cultural thing. It's like, so like certain Japanese games and sensibilities do not apply. It does not, you know, apply here in the States. They'll be like, nah, man, you playing a fucking game with underage girls with big ass titties and you're blowing their clothes off. And then you got people in these groups like sharing pictures of them like half naked and other shit. It's like, you get cringed out, but then you realize it's like, these are all fictional characters. They don't exist. It's like they're not real. It's not like they're not real girls or anything. So there's no reason to be butthurt about it. People got funky fetishes. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, I do not hang out in those groups. What did you say? They changed it this year to 16. What, the age over consent of overall is 16 this year? That would be nuts. Nah, that wouldn't happen, dude. We're still on the Me Too movement still going on, bro. I don't know if they're gonna make that nationwide. You know, man, that's gonna cause so much shit. That's gonna cause so much conflict. Cause I remember back in the 80s, we had this one porn star. Yeah, her name was Tracy Lords. Oh, you talk about in Japan? Yeah, it's always been 16. It's like, I was watching this one Japanese channel, like Crazy Whatever Laws, but they still have a law in place where you can legally date like a 14-year-old if you have the parents' consent. It's like, you can even date like a cousin. You can even date like a cousin. It was like that in the United States too. If you watch that movie with Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire, he ended up marrying his like 14, 15-year-old cousin. That caused this controversy. I don't know. My video might get demonetized for this. Well, I'm not getting no monetized for this shit either, but I wouldn't be shocked if this live stream will take like 2 or 3 days to get uploaded. Either or I might get blocked just for talking about this shit. I'm on YouTube's radar. Since I play a lot of copyrighted music. And then I have some people, I think I got some low-key haters who watch my channel and report my shit to YouTube. That has happened a few times. But yeah, man, when it comes down to like wrestling games and preferences, it's all over the place. It's not the fan base for wrestling games is not a universal accepting fan base. It's everybody has what they like. It's like, it's a fan base where everybody has preferences. They have their likes and dislikes. So it's like, you're never gonna have no general consensus among wrestling like fans. even still, with that being said, the WWE games still sell millions of copies because it's like the only really good game on the market. It's like AEW's out. And I think the one thing that I hated people saying with the game coming out is like, it's going to be an arcade alternative. I'm like, well, shoot, you're shooting yourself as a foot. As a rival company, it's like you're already conceding defeat if you don't consider yourself a competitor against the WWE games. It's like, that's what I hate. It's like, look, when you go to the store in a toy section, they got the AEW action figures right next to the WWE action figures. You were competing with the WWE brand. You are a rival company. It's like you got former WWE wrestlers in AEW. You got CM Punk. You got the Hardy Boys in AEW. It's like you even got in upper management, you got Mark Henry, some WWE, like, you got Big Show over there. Christian is on AEW. It's like you got former WWE wrestlers in AEW. And then the developer who been making the WWE games for the past 20 years developed the AEW game. And you got these people saying, oh, they're not going to compete. They're not competitors. You can't compare the games. Like, yes, you can. They're both wrestling games. And they're both going to be sold in the video game store as wrestling games. So, yeah, they are competing with each other. They're rival promotions. It's like you could say that based on sheer share numbers, there might not be a chance in hell AEW can topple WWE. But I don't know. If you go on YouTube and you see all these old head, well, millennial wrestling game fans who grew up playing the late 90s, early 2000s wrestling games, they've been championing AEW. They're like, they just on AEW's dick. Like, once the game had a release date, even today it's kind of drowned out a bit since people got their hands on the game. So people got their hands on the actual product now, so they're like, so it went from just crazy overhyped to just like, yeah, I got the game and it's fun. Okay, are you still hype? I'm having fun, so I like it, but are you still as hype about it as you were 2 weeks ago? No, they're not as hype about it as they were 2 weeks ago. So I just think that shit was funny. I just think it is like, I saw some of the reviews. Some people are just positive Pete's about the whole thing. I only pay attention to the channels where the people are more real about it, where they're like, they can call out the positives and they can call out the negatives. You know, they call out, you know, both sides of the fence. They're not going to be like, it's not like some of the other channels where they call it the negatives, but they try to downplay the negatives. But it's like, nah, if it's a negative, it's a negative. it is what it is. It's like, you can't downplay it. It is on the Switch. I saw one dude, he reviewed the Switch version. The Switch version has some kind of hiccups with it. But other than that, he said the Switch version is okay. I didn't know it was on the Switch. That would be a perfect wrestling game to play on the go. I think it'll do well on the Switch because it is the only wrestling game on the Switch. Because 2K is not, after WWE 2K18, they're not going to put no more wrestling games on the Switch. The Switch cannot handle the 2K games. Yeah, I'm gonna do run one more match and then I'm gonna call it a night. Cause it's what, 3:03 a.m. in the morning. I'm surprised Sleep Tight is still up, but then again, he work a night job, so he's pretty much a vampire anyway. Which is funny, he needs to change his YouTube name because he does not get as much sleep as he should. Calling his name Sleep Tight when he's probably fight sleep. I don't know, he probably might be asleep right now. I have had him, we have been in chat rooms together on PS4, and then he'll just fall asleep and I hear his ass like snoring through the mic. Oh, he's playing Diablo 4. Okay, he's still awake. What level you at? Last time I was talking to you, you were feeling all lonely. You're like, my homies are like hella high level, and then I invited them to play, but they won't let me watch the cutscenes because they're just blowing through the level. What level you at now? You better be like level 30 or 40 by now, man. I'm gonna laugh if you're like still below 30. I'd be like, you ain't. Oh, he's 29. He's just barely underneath 30. You ain't grinding hard enough. Shoot, all my older gaming buddies on Instagram, they're already at the end game content. They already beat the regular story. They're already in the end game content. They already surpassed you, man. They're trying to max out their characters, get legendary gear and all that other shit. Gotta put in that work. You playing solo or you playing with somebody? Probably playing solo. What, 10 on your hardcore? What, you playing on like hardcore difficulty? I think I watched one YouTuber where he was playing on I don't know if he wasn't playing on hardcore, but I know he's playing like on hard difficulty. And even then he said the game didn't become like hard until he started doing some of the end game dungeons. And he was getting one-shotted. Dude was getting one-shotted. I was watching that. He was like, oh, this game's pretty easy. I beat the game with no trouble. Level 50, then he started doing like this tower dungeon. And he was just dying and dying and dying. Getting one shot in. He was like, okay, now it's becoming challenging. He said, this is the Diablo he knows and loves. Oh, you're on a team. Oh, you got help. Yeah, you got help. Diablo's a whole different game when you got dedicated homies who know what the hell they're doing. It was sort of like me when I played PSO by myself, and then when I finally got online and I finally got into a crew with some buddies who knew what they were doing, who could hook me up with rare weapons, then it became like, okay, now I'm really playing some PSO, because they had me do some playing on harder difficulties, nightmare mode, or doing the challenge mode so you can get your red weapon, which are like hella busted. But you had to go through the whole game. What was the rule of it of challenge mode? You couldn't buy anything from shops. You had to get everything in the level. You couldn't buy anything. You couldn't buy, sell, or trade anything. So it was truly a challenge. You couldn't buy any healing items. All the healing items you had to find when going through the level. What, your friend? What? Your friend? What? Hey. Oh, your friend Mike said give him a shout out. Alright, Mike. There's your shout out. Help Sleep Tight go through Diablo 4. Educate him about playing RPGs. Teach him how to micromanage his shit. Because one of these days I want to play with Sleep Tight in an action RPG where I feel that he won't be a hindrance in my experience. Sort of like how it was with my buddies when we were playing Monster Hunter, where they didn't want to play with me. I'm sure you know what you're doing now. Like I said, you got help. You got homies. Like I said, I didn't know how to play PSO until I had friends who taught me how to raise my mag and all that other shit. It makes the game fun when you got a dedicated group going after a singular goal. So that's one thing I can agree with multiplayer games that are social. I said, but you gotta have dedicated buddies, because if you don't, then it's just a pain in the ass. No, you didn't. You haven't figured out shit, because you have not beat no RPG by yourself. You haven't figured out and beat nothing by yourself. It's like I beat PSO by myself until I went online and started grouping up with people. Like I said, I want to see you like this people whose channels I watch. The people whose stuff I watch playing this game, they play it by themselves. That's why they have the hella OP builds. They treat Diablo like how people treat 2K. The NBA 2K games where they just play their character, play them to death, and just learn how to master their shooting and all that other shit. The same apply to Diablo. You know, you master your build, your skill set, your spells, master your class, because you know they got PvE. That's gonna separate the hardcore from the tryhards, and the tryhards from the wannabes, and the wannabes from the beginners who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Is when you start doing player versus player PvP. You're really gonna learn how to play Diablo then. Shoot, I played PvP once in Diablo 3 and never played it again. I was like, fuck that shit. Got one-shotted numerous times. And people were like, man, you need a... It's like, did you do this dungeon yet? No. It's like, nah, man. It's like, okay, you gotta do all this. You gotta do this. You gotta get your legendary gear. You gotta tune it. You gotta do this with your armor. You gotta do this. You gotta have this group of skills and abilities. So yeah, once you go down the Diablo rabbit hole, it's like you're either gonna stay casual, and if you try to go hardcore, you can't half-ass it. You gotta go all the way. If you don't go all the way, you're just not gonna be that dude. You're just not. I learned that the hard way. It was like I just stayed in my filthy casual lane, and I was perfectly content. But yeah, you need to show me. You need to do some streams with you and your buddies going through it. I'll definitely watch that. I would definitely watch your Diablo 4 live streams. God, I think I put, I looked it up. Oh, okay, I put one of the twins. I thought I put both the twins in this match. I thought you were playing. What, you're about to play, or you are playing? What's today? Thursday? You off? You're off the next few days? But yeah, this will be my last match of the night. It's a 6-woman clusterfuck match. I think it's knockout eliminations. Oh, you're about to play hardcore? I can't believe you're playing hardcore and you haven't even beat the story yet. You haven't beat the game playing on the story yet. Either that or you have. Yeah, you need to beat that game first, man. It's like, but I know you. You're a social gamer first before anything else. So it's like, anything to do with you and your homies, you're gonna do that first over anything else. But the best way to learn is like, that's the best way to learn like the finer nuances of the game. But what makes the game really fun is discovering and beating shit on your own, then going and learning the hardcore shit. Because then that way, you won't have your buddies just try to teach you all the shit you don't know and feeling stupid. At least you'll have that kind of familiarity where it's like, oh, do you know how to do this? Like, yeah, okay, cool. You won't be like me playing Final Fantasy 14, where people would just left my ass in a dungeon because I didn't know the basics of playing an MMO. Learn how to play my class and shit. Same thing happened in Monster Hunter. So I was like, yep. It's like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to learn to play the game trial by fire on my own, read the instructions, go to game facts, watch some YouTube videos, study up on some shit. Yeah, you do you. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know. what you're gonna be going through. Cause I went through it. Numerous times. But yeah, some people don't learn until they experience shit. But that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And this match is nuts. Of course you're gonna die. You're on hardcore. Your attention, like, you're on the hardest difficulty of the game. And it's like, you really don't play that type of shit unless you have, like, already, where you have a character that has a good build, you have good armor, good legendaries, before you start doing shit like that. Other than that, it's like you trying to bang your head up against a wall. Because I remember I tried to play, like, challenge mode. It was like, I thought it was hot shit. Yeah, I got my level 90 Fantasy Star Online character. I can now play, you know, hardcore challenge mode. And then God even started playing with my buddies. They'll be like, okay, just make sure you at least get one shot in on the enemies and we'll kill them for you. He said, we just want you to get hit just so you can get experience. It's like, yeah, it's like level 90 you can play the mode, but you don't have the armor. You don't have the weapons. It's like you're gonna get one shot it, and it's like I only did one hit of damage. I was only doing one like hit point of damage to the enemies. That's how weak my weapons were. I was barely scratching these things. Hardcore is only meaning if we die. Looks like if we die, they die forever. The hardest level I can go. Yeah, like I said, that's for experienced players. That's for the truly hardest of the hardcore. Yeah, it's like, until you guys really know the like nuances of the game, it's gonna be hard to do. It was like that with what's that other game we were playing? God damn it. What was that game we were playing? That one RPG. That one had a hardcore mode too. That one RPG we were playing. Dang, what was the name of it? That we had on the PS4. That had a hardcore mode. So if you create a character, if they die, it's permadeath. They die. You have to create a whole new character. Oh my gosh, she's trying to make a tap. Oh, she was just beating the hell out of her with that hockey stick. Oh, there we go. There's a finisher. She hit her with that clothesline. Will she get the pin? I think it's elimination. Yeah, Baroness got eliminated. That's why she's outside the ring looking all woozy. They don't leave the ring. Oh, she got a stop sign? I forgot that was a weapon in this game. So we got two versions of LJ Akira. We got her good bitchy version, and then we got her heel kind of fucking zombie demon vampire maid version. She's getting her ass beat with a hockey stick. Hey, the first character right now. How many characters have you went through in hardcore mode? Because it's hardcore. Yeah, dude, it's gonna take you some time. Like I said, it's like the game is still new, but like I said, there's people who've been playing Diablo since Diablo 2, so they know how the whole, you know, as far as how you're supposed to approach and play the game and things like that. Oh my god, that was the most weirdest springboard I ever seen in this game. She springboarded her, she landed on the chair. Oh my god, she just ran through it. Ooh, that boot kick. Hockey stick. So these are the last three left. We got Bombshell Bunny, Kitty Kobayashi, and a good version of LJ Akira, the maid. This match was crazy. Yeah, you should stream it. Let me know if you're gonna stream it. I'll watch it while I'm in the bed. Because after this match, I'm gonna be jumping into bed, but I'll probably be asleep. I'll probably, I don't know. I'll end up falling asleep eventually. But I've been sipping on coffee, even though it's decaf. So I might be up for another hour or two. Oh, she hit that clothesline again. Did she get this pin? No. Oh no, she kicked out. Oh, she got it. Oh, bopped her with the chair. And she rolls out the ring. She got the stop sign. Oh, she's about to kill Bombshell with the stop sign. Oh no, Bombshell boom kicked her. Oh, they just killing it. They just killing both bitches with the stop sign. Oh, nice counter with the DDT. Oh, Kari, dude. I found out a freaking... Oh, she got the knockout. She knocked out Bombshell. Okay, what happened? So did LJ get knocked out? Because there was 3 of them left. And then, what the fuck? Okay, let's see what these highlights look like. Okay, she probably got knocked out. So LJ got knocked out with that move. And then Kitty Kobayashi knocked out Bombshell Bunny with the clothesline. Okay, that was good.
Absolutely, Cole. We just witnessed quite the combination of endurance, in-ring savvy, and if I'm being honest,
yeah, man, that was a 2-hour live stream of me talking a bunch of random shit.
But they still made it through in one piece.
For you, sleep tight. Thanks for coming in, chatting up with me. So I wasn't just talking to myself like I usually do. And then for the people who come in later to watch the live stream, thanks for watching. Y'all stay safe. You need to send me a message. Send me a text if you're streaming or not. If you hear me, send me a text on my phone to let me know so I can watch that shit. I want to see all the deaths. I want to hear all the shit talking. Hear you guys talking shit on the mics. I want to hear your Leroy Jenkins moment. Leroy Jenkins. You just run into a mob of monsters. Oh, you just died. Are you streaming now? Let me see. Let me check my phone. Oh, my phone's fully charged too. Let's see if Sleep Tight is streaming. Probably not. Because you gotta concentrate when you're playing Diablo 4. Uh-oh. What? Do I see a bad review for AEW Fight Forever? What? Dude said the game broke his heart.
Deserves to be christened. Do it right.
What? Okay, I gotta watch this later. Gotta watch this one later. Cause everybody else, they've been chilling. They've been hella kissing this game's ass. But yeah, you send me a text when you streaming. I'll get on there and watch it. But I am going to end this live stream and call it a night. So y'all stay safe and God bless. It is now almost 3:30 a.m. Okay, I'll get on there and check it out.